I did a video about Top G Andrew Tate.
Yep.
And kind of, doing pretty good on the internet. And I was like, Danny's been gone, but for the last 2 weeks, this guy took over the world, right?
I've been following him. I mean, has it really picked up in the last 2 weeks specifically?
Yes.
Like specifically?
Yes,
I mean, I thought it was really popping off even before then.
Correct. Yeah.
He's been out there.
So, and I have a lot of thoughts on it.
Yeah.
And the first one, I'm going to say, I think that there's, I'm going to say some good things and some bad things or whatever, but this is my honest analysis after listening to his message. I think a lot of his message, if you actually boil it down to, and if you don't know who this guy is, he's kind of...
I mean, if you don't know who this guy is, what are you fucking doing?
Well, every 6 months, girls find a new Trump, right? And he's that right now. And he's sort of like a mix of Dan Bilzerian and, like a kind of like a Trump or Alex Jones or something like that, right?
Yeah, he's a very polarizing, out there kind of guy. But the one thing I will say, you don't really see, he's not showing off the chicks. He shows off the cars, but the chicks are like, he's very much like bitches ain't shit. Cause like he's not like, here's me with 20 chicks.
Well, I will say like there's two parts. One is like, I think a lot of times people need the right message at the right time, right? So a lot of people do need to be shaken up by something. And I've said that, like, there's so many people that I just feel like I need to shake up. So a lot of the shit that he's saying, I'm like, you'll see points that he makes. He just makes them in a different way. But I'm like, yeah, like I've said a lot of this stuff on this podcast.
Yeah.
I've been saying this stuff in real life. Like a lot of this shit that guys talk about.
I remember
how much stuff, just the amount of stuff that girls don't know about what guys actually want, and they can pretend. Like the amount of times, no shit, you don't want a girl that's a hoe.
Yeah.
Like no shit. Like, you know what I mean? No shit. Like obviously in an ideal scenario, you like smash a ton of girls and have a chick. Like you're right. So, and that is like the Hollywood stuff. Mm-hmm. And the idea of like, if you get rich enough, you can get, but again, none of it's free. Sometimes you have enough capital, and that's all social capital. That might be capital of how much, more valuable you are than the girl. How do you want to use it? Some guys might want to use it to tell the girl to not bug them. If you can use it on like, I'm going to be banging lots of other girls, that's not free.
No.
So it's like,
I use the capital for an electric collar with a remote.
So I think there is something to be like that. A lot of young people need the message of someone being like, everything you're listening to, they're lying to you. Like, because how many times, even in like entertainment and anything, people will be telling you like how women work and how relationships work. And you're kind of like, what? This doesn't make sense. Even how money works, like what you're supposed to do for a living, how you're supposed to go to school. And it takes someone to be like, all that's not true, but most people don't know that.
Yeah.
Because it's like, it feels like you're being gaslit by the world a lot of times, right? And I do appreciate people that are taking that message away from politics, what it actually is. Like so much of this shit, that's being looked at as like a right-wing, left-wing thing just isn't. It's being forced to be called a right-wing, left-wing thing.
For sure. I mean, there's definitely just rules of nature and things like that. That'll just be like, if people don't like the way things are, then they'll just be like, oh, that's like a right-wing thing. And you're like, no, you just don't like it.
No, you don't like it. Or you're calling a masculine thing a right-wing thing.
Yeah.
And you've coupled like being anything that's like ultra masculine as like a right-wing thing, right? So it's important for have someone in your life that's like, all this shit's bullshit, and like start from there. Like I think that even, I've had people in my life that were that, and that right message at the right time. I've had versions of this that I needed to kind of like understand, like the right person that you even, just one other person that you kind of see the world the same way, and you kind of notice, you're like, okay, now that I know that's bullshit, I can move forward from there.
Yeah, for sure.
But I think it's also important to move forward from there, which is why this message is very, like, more of a probably message that connects a lot more with a 20-year-old.
Yeah, and sometimes you just need to be hearing it a lot. You need to be hearing this message from, sometimes you hear it once and you go like, okay, I agree with that, but I can't go against the grain that much. But you start hearing, you go like, oh, I just saw 50,000 people say this thing. I go, okay, I feel comfortable. Like
once you understand the options, then you can understand the cost benefits. You know what I mean? Like so much of it is like, how much are you willing to live an alternative life? How much can you feel like you're different from everyone? How much can you not be outside the box? How much can you have people hate you? How much can you have a chick that like, you're dealing with her bullshit? You know what I mean? Like there's different types of chicks, like chicks that, kind of will take a lot of your shit. Often are high maintenance in other ways.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I've had both. Think about like mobster's wife, like the average girl like that. yeah, she'll let him do what he wants. She's not going to talk to him about that shit. He still runs shit, but she's going to nag the fuck out of him.
Yeah, she's gonna give him the side eye.
Right.
At home.
So there's different types of girls
of course.
that have the different types of stuff, right? But with men's stuff, like, here's a perfect example. If you think of like the stuff girls care about, right? Then it becomes the stuff mainstream cares about. Then it gets pitched to you like everyone cares about this. Do you know a single successful guy, like one successful guy in your life that's like killing it? Like, killing it, pretty cool guy, got his shit together, decent with girls, that gave a fuck about Trump. Like that like politics like stressed him out other than kind of like, well, I can think of a million girls like that.
Oh, for sure.
COVID. Did any of your friends that were like, did any winners in your life really think like, like, you know what I mean?
Not making it their identity. Yeah, but girls are just more likely to be like that.
Exactly.
For sure.
But that's not what's being pitched to people. So my point is, if you think about it, like if you actually remove, if you just said this was a society where guys and girls were different, right? Like they lived in different things, there would be not a single thing that was like, let's say you just something was just men, 200 men.
Yeah.
There wouldn't be a single thing of 200 men that ever like worrying about like everyone's overly safe about COVID or like, oh, we let's say, we're talking about pronouns and all this stuff. Like there never, that only exists because of like girls.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, for the most part.
Right.
Yeah.
So I think under knowing that, like, what you do with that information is up to like how you want to live your life. But knowing that, because I think a lot of people see a guy like that and they're like, I don't want to live like that. And it's exhausting. Mm-hmm. A lot of people don't want that.
People want pretty stress-free lives.
Some people do, yeah.
They want the path of least resistance. It's like the happy wife, happy life. You just want to be like, just fucking leave me alone.
There is the points like, when you're talking about like, just being the guy that's like, I'll just go along with the flow. Like your life does get progressively worse and worse if you don't fucking like, you don't set some boundaries with how your life's going to operate with chicks.
Or you're just fine with that. It's trade-offs. You're just making these trade-offs where you go, I don't want to fight with my wife.
I think that a lot of men are depressed and a lot of men are in scenarios that they don't like.
Of course.
Right? A lot of men fucking work jobs they don't want. They don't like the fucking dynamic with their girl. They don't really know how to get out of it. Guys don't leave girls as much because they have a fucking responsibility for her feeling. Dudes have like a sense of duty with the girl where they're like,
plus if you leave, she's taking all your shit. So
more importantly, you got the government like straight up in a lot of scenarios being like, yo, if you leave, you have half your money right now.
Sounds like we got to move to Romania. My grandmother's from Romania, actually.
Really?
Top G.
Top G. Yeah, your grandma's the top G.
She's from, I think, where fucking he lives.
Dude, I was having that conversation with a chick that she was like generally worried about monkeypox.
Yeah.
Like,
is she a homosexual man?
Yes.
Okay.
Exactly. And it was maybe the maddest I've been in a while, dude.
Yeah.
I was like, after everything that happened, this is a disease. Like, it's like, yeah, if you're a gay guy, you should get people like, this is a problem. You know what I mean?
Yeah, for sure.
But like for a like straight woman in a relationship to be like stressed out about this, it was like after everything you've witnessed for the last 3 years, after the amount of times like people telling you things that you're listening to are wrong.
Straight lies.
To again, like to get right back in line, like the fucking, you know what I mean?
But
the slaughter.
It's the pacifier. They just go, here you go, suck on that, and just dude. I've actually.
So understand, like being around those people's fucking. Dude, I
freaked the shit out of my girlfriend about monkeypox because I was fucking on last night on the street.
She thought your dick was a monkeypox.
She goes, is that a single monkeypox boil? On top of 2 other monkeypox boils? I go, that's just mean. No, because they released the New York City released something being like, because in New York City, like nobody has laundry, right? Like everybody goes to laundromats. Like some people have laundry, but tons of people in the city go to laundromats. And the city released something being like, yo, if you have monkeypox, you got to take all these precautions because it can pass along in laundromats. Or whatever. If you don't, like, for example, if you go use like a cold water thing with someone with monkeypox, and then you go use yours and you don't throw in the dryer.
That's unlikely, though.
Super unlikely. But I was just talking about it where like, and then my girlfriend's like, you can't do laundry anymore. Yeah. Like out of laundry, she's like, no more laundry.
Yo, can you imagine the fucking
freaking out.
Dude? If you had a dude friend that was like that, it would be everyone would be like, oh yeah, he's like a pussy.
Yeah.
Like he's this like germaphobe weirdo. You know what I mean?
Yeah, of course.
Whereas chicks, every guy's like, yeah, it's my chick. Like, so I think it is. When it's all, it's important to like see that.
Yeah, I mean, girls are super vain too, and they're just like the idea of having a bunch of pox on their face.
They don't like
dude
that
would be like,
either.
yeah, I got the pox.
Right, but the rule holds up with everything.
Yeah, of course.
You know, here, and it's like also just like little things, which I think, you know, when me and you, I think that we're very different, but like I think that around when I met you, me and you kind of started, like maybe you even before me, but like we were both sort of thinking about like money in life like the same way in terms of like your time's the valuable resource. Like, you know, you not just like nothing that everyone like does normally. I just accept that as true. Like, it's like, well, you should do this. I'm always like, well, that doesn't really, you know, it doesn't.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
And there's a lot of people out there being like, yo, you don't have to do that. You know what I mean?
No.
As far as other things, like, but if you take, James Altucher said this, but so it's a
New
good
York
point.
is dead.
He had a good point. He goes, okay, think about recycling, how much girls are like into recycling, right? Like more than guys. Like, and it's because of the idea of like, you know, let's help the environment, right? Mm-hmm. But if you think about it, you go, if you really are someone that like is into the environment, if you take like, you know, 20 less car rides, like if you walk 20 times instead of taking a car ride, that's how much, that's like the same environmental impact as like not recycling for 2 years.
Probably.
Like, you know what I mean?
Something insane probably.
So I think that's why I have all these, you know, it's equivalent of when you're trying to make money and you're talking about something that makes a penny. It's like, shut up. Like, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. It's like, okay, just.
These are these tiny incremental
You have all
things.
this bullshit in your head that means nothing. You know what I mean?
Also, in a lot of cities, you don't really need to recycle because that's why.
They go to the same place.
Well, not that it goes to the same place. It's like the whole thing when tons of cities where they give you, you know, 5 cents for the can people. It's like they are the recycling. They are they're the next layer of recycling. Like you're literally, by not recycling, you're supporting them.
And exactly. And then they can buy more money to get, you know, they get more money so they can get clothes to get another girl and then impregnate another girl and make a second recycling family.
Yeah. I mean, but there are recycling. I mean,
so
that's
they can populate.
So a lot of like homeless people make money is by people not recycling.
So there's even that too, but it's like having those conversations. Like
every time you don't recycle, you're literally giving a nickel to a homeless person.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think and you know what, you said it good that, but I think the way that it is, it's like never internalize bullshit as part of your identity. Mm-hmm. And it's like that, like, no, I'm a person that does this. And it's like, but it doesn't make sense. Like, you know what I mean?
Well, these are just weak identity people.
Right.
Yeah.
But I think that's, you know, a lot of people, everyone's some version of that. Like I'm that sometimes.
Yeah.
You know, I'm all of the bad things sometimes. I think that at this point in my life, hopefully I'm, you know, and one of the reasons why I do good at shit is like, hopefully I've, you know, kind of, but it's always a, you know, then you get bad at it again and you realize you're like, fuck, I'm like, I need to read, like I'm doing all this stupid shit. Like it's so constant, you know what I mean? It's never just ends.
Yeah.
So I think some of these people, the way that you think of chicks, it's like, well, this is how it happens and you do this. And it's like, well, you don't,
it doesn't have to be.
No, it doesn't have to be.
Yeah.
So I think that's why people that shock young people that are set in like stupid ways, and sometimes regardless of who it is, you know, and it's obviously going to piss off girls because girls don't like a message of self-improvement to guys. You know what I mean?
No.
But I was thinking...
Literally, women like the opposite. They go, you just get really fat and sloppy.
I'll tell you a good point, though. If you have a girl that's like, hey, you know, you're listening to... You know, girls that they didn't like Jordan... People listen to Jordan Peterson or whatever, right? They're like, oh, it's giving you guys bad ideas and stuff like that. It was like... I mean, girls don't understand. It's like... I mean, it's more offensive if this is your chick or whatever. It's more offensive to me that you're listening to How to Be a Slut podcast.
Yeah.
Then fucking it should be the Get Your Life Together podcast, but also fuck bitches.
Yeah. Yeah. You think TikTok is gonna try and like do something to fuck with Andrew Tate because he kind of like cracked their thing?
Well, it's hard to. He's so much money, right? It's the same as Trump. Like you can kick him off.
Well, I'm saying like, well, that's what I'm wondering. Like, will they straight up like, you know, put some sort of facial recognition thing in there, where they're just like his face is just kind of banned from there?
Yeah.
He really did like break their system.
He broke their system.
Yeah.
But I think the best thing to think
like
about guys like that.
He gamed it to the max.
Yeah. If you're like a winner, I think the best way is to be like, all these people, you know, for the most part, guys like Jordan Peterson, guys like him, anyone that's like giving you advice, maybe us when we do, a lot of it, some of it's your like original theories, but most of it is repurposed stuff, like insights that you've like internalized and found to be true.
Of course.
That are like age old. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So a lot of the stuff he says, you go, yeah, lots of people have said that. It's like, but you have you've internalized it into a coherent philosophy and sell it a certain way, right?
Yeah.
I think Rick Rubin was talking about jokes, and he goes, he was talking about art, and he was like, the best artists have the best antenna for what's the right thing at the right time. And it was like, a lot of times it wasn't even your idea as much as it needed to be made, and you were the one that saw that and made it.
Yeah, and you took all the stuff that you had. I mean, yeah, I agree. There's not really real, true, like, originality. It's you're usually taking all these little bits and pieces. And
right.